Infection. First, let's talk about the resident normal flora. That's the bacteria and fungi that live throughout the body and on the body of everybody. That bacteria and fungi are supposed to be there. Does that mean that we're constantly infected? No. There's a difference between the organism who resides in humans that cause destruction and those that don't. Resident flora. Some are essential for the normal functioning of the body, such as bacteria in the gut is what helps in the clotting process. Without these bacteria, people have a hard time clotting their blood. Some of the resident flora has no effect. They are not harmful. We can refer to this as being colonized. Now, for infections, invasions of organisms that cause disease and destruction, we can call that being colonized, but we usually use the term infected. Now, colonization and infection, both terms mean that microorganisms are living on or in the host. Pathogens. When referring to organisms that cause disease or destruction, we use the term pathogen. It's important to keep the pathogens away while allowing the resident flora to continue. We do this by using good hand hygiene, good hygiene in general, staying in good health, good nutrition, avoiding contact with pathogens, etc. And I'm going to refer you to the chain of infection information that's in the text. Resident flora and pathogens, all of these things, the flora and the pathogens, can cause disease and destruction if the person is immunocompromised. But in a healthy individual, resident flora does not cause disease or destruction. Well, how much damage is a pathogen going to do? We're not talking about the host state of health. We're talking about the pathogen's ability level here. First concept is virulence. How many of those people who are exposed to this disease, to this microorganism, get the disease? That has to do with virulence. As opposed to infectivity, how easily can an organism enter, multiply, and survive within a host? The two of these, infectivity and virulence, are very closely linked. Toxigenicity. Does the organism produce harmful toxins? And how much damage are they going to do? Antigenicity. How easily does the host recognize the pathogen as an invading organism? Because of this, how quickly and strongly will the host's immune system respond? This is kind of the wolf in sheep's clothing. If a pathogen is not recognized as being dangerous, the host's immune system is not going to jump into action right away. Antigenic variability. This is talking about mutations. How quickly does an organism mutate, and how quickly does the human host catch on that this organism is slightly different, but we still need to fight it off, just like we did the first organism. We also need to look at pathogenic defense mechanisms. Does the pathogen have a thick outer wall so that it can prevent phagocytosis? All right, very briefly, bacteria. Bacteria can survive without hosts. Now, they use their hosts for food and shelter, but they don't need them to continue. Some bacteria are aerobic. They need oxygen to function, and some are anaerobic, meaning they can function in situations where there is no oxygen. And many of the bacteria produce toxins. Viruses, on the other hand, are parasites. They must enter the host cell to survive. Inside the host cells, the virus inserts its own genetic code. It goes into the host cell and changes it so that the host cell is going to support the functioning of the virus. It's not doing their own normal functioning. The host cell is losing that. And sometimes, in fact, the host cell can turn into tumor cells because of viruses. Now, once the viruses have been within the cells for a while, have changed the genetic code, and they've been in there multiplying and multiplying, the cell essentially explodes, releasing the new viral materials to go out and find new host cells and keep the process going. Treatment of virus versus bacteria. Antibiotics target the bacteria. They're more easily successful than antivirals because viruses live within the host cell. Antivirals have to enter the host cell, or maybe destroy it, maybe block the host cell, but it has to be involved with the host cell, and we don't want to kill the host. Now, fungi are either single or multiple celled organisms. They also are part of the resident flora, and they are opportunistic. They just can hang out in the body and be not a big deal until someone is immunocompromised or the normal flora is disrupted. Then the fungi come and kind of take over. One of the common fungi is candidiasis. It's normally present in the body. It's in the mouth. It's in the vagina. It's in the internal part of the body. But it's kept in balance by the normal bacterial flora. When the host takes antibiotics, this balance is disrupted and the fungi can spread. That's when we see things like thrush. That's the inside of the mouth, the whitish coating. You can't wipe it off. It's a fungus is what it is. Or in the vagina, which is called yeast to most people. Now, the same process takes place if the host is immunosuppressed. Thrush and vaginal candidiasis are common in people with AIDS. So is candidiasis found in the moist body folds, like if they've got a larger abdomen, the fold on the abdomen, or in the groin, or in the armpits. Okay, phases of infection. First one's exposure. And that has to do with how does the organism get into the body. So somebody is exposed to a particular microorganism and it gets into the body. Then it incubates. It starts to grow, but there's not that many of them in the beginning, not enough to make the host sick. Eventually, the host realizes that this microorganism is inside. We start to see some of the inflammatory response, some of the immune response, but in the beginning it may just be a generalized feeling of just not feeling good. When we do see it is the clinical illness, when the bacteria or the virus or the fungi have reached that critical threshold where you do see all the symptoms of the particular disease. As we treat the person, we start to kill off the bacteria or the virus or the fungi or whatever the pathogen is. And then we get to the point where most of them are dead and we've got convalescence. That's when maybe the last bit of the pathogens are killed, but the body is in the process of repairing. Getting rid of all the inflammatory response that's going on. The redness is starting to go away. The bumps, the rash is starting to go away. What are the manifestations of infection? You need to think about local and systemic responses. Now, the local responses are mainly due to the inflammatory response, the redness, the heat, the swelling, the exudate. Remember, this is localized. A systemic manifestations affect the entire body. The whole body is weak and fatigued. The individual has a fever. These are symptoms of all the toxins that are running throughout the body that are causing this reaction.